Hello all, my name is Patrice. I am a vocal coach. I'm also a singer-songwriter, and I am here to service you. I've been teaching for over 10 years, and the cool thing about that is I've seen lots of trends with different singers coming through my doors. Certain things that maybe you don't even realize you're not in it alone. And I think that is an important thing as singers. We understand that we're not in this alone, and certain struggles that you're facing, guaranteed other singers are facing as well. And the main thing that I want to talk about today is I find with people walking through the doors, it's not that there's a lack of passion and drive and that anyone can't do this. What I find when people fall off is they actually don't understand certain things. They get frustrated with it, be it certain terminologies that's thrown out all the time or techniques that are thrown out that they don't understand. And so what happens is they become frustrated. And when we're frustrated, we don't want to be a part of that. Or at other times too, when we become frustrated and things aren't working for us, we tend to go, oh yeah, no, it's just not for me. This isn't something, this is for only a few. And the reality is it's not. I want to clear up 3 main terms that every singer has to know. The reason is if you do not understand these, you're going to find yourself running into trouble and therefore potentially becoming one of those individuals who gets frustrated, doesn't understand it, therefore thinks it's not for them. When in reality, it can be for you. It is for you. If you are here, you are obviously interested in singing, and I want to make sure that you don't give up on that. So stick with me as I break these down and help you understand the terms every singer must know. Singers, I want to break down for you the first term, and that term is pitch. Now, you might be looking at me like I'm crazy and be like, I know what that means, Patrice, but you would be shocked to know the amount of times that I have singers walking through my doors. We start the lessons and I go, great. We come up against, in my program, I talk about pitch, come up against that and I'm like, great. Do you know what I'm talking about when I say pitch? They could say about 50% of the time, yes. Then I ask them to clarify and they go, I know what it means, I just can't describe it. And what I found is most of the times, if you can't describe that, then you probably don't have a full grasp of what it means. And so that's why I want to clear this one up, because as singers, ultimately, what we're trying to do is be on pitch. And what does pitch mean? In the simplest form, note. This will play this exact pitch every single time. This will play this exact pitch every single time. So, pitch equals note. Now, there's a little bit more that can go into that in regards to what determines the pitch. Is there's strings and pianos, and there is little hammers that come down that hit upon these strings, and they're tightened to a certain tightness and length, so therefore it vibrates. The higher you go, the vibrations are quicker. And then the lower we go, kind of hear that there. And that's part of it. And essentially, singers, it's kind of what our vocal cords are doing. But not to go too far down that path there, I just want to give you the basic understanding of what pitch is, and that's the note, right? And so the other part of that is why this is important to understand is because if someone says to you, you are off pitch or you are pitchy, that's a common thing. If you ever watched any of the shows, right? American Idol, The Voice, right? Might be like, that was great, but it was a little pitchy. And you're like, huh? What does that actually mean? It just means that the singer may have sounded good. And I'll get to the next term with what I'm talking about there. But they might have sounded good, but they were off the notes. And so that doesn't fully sell something. And so when someone says to you, great, you sounded good, but you were pitchy, what they are referencing is that you weren't hitting the exact notes that you needed to, or you were going off. Now, to that, you could be going flat, which means you're going under the note, or you could be going sharp, which is over the note. Now I have ways and solutions to fix that. I'm not going to address that in this video, but be sure to check out other videos where I talk about that. That being said, we want to be on pitch, we want to be on the note, we don't want to be flat, we don't want to be sharp. So I hope this helps. So the next time you're being coached, I've had this happen with producers, you're working with a producer and they mention this, you know what to do. And again, be sure to check out other videos so you learn how to fix it, right? But moving forward. Okay, term number 2 that every singer must know is the word tone. Now, what does this mean? Tone essentially is quality of sound, how something sounds. And so you might hear vocal coaches talking about different tones that artists have to create, right? Or should be creating, or what they work on with their artists to create. And so what's important to note about this is some people identify the lower range as chest voice. And there's a certain tone quality, which is a sound quality that comes along with that. In the lower range, you might hear people talk about breathy voice. Right, you hear that breath through the air. I always do that latest song, Olivia Rodrigo, where she kind of breaks and she has that breathiness there, right? And so you have breathy voice. That's a tone, that's a texture, that's a sound quality we want to create as singers or can use as singers. So you also have down there what I term and call what the lower range is speaking voice. Now that's not just talking about your actual speaking voice, it's talking about a brighter, clearer sound in the lower range. And so that's a certain sound quality we are trying to create down there. Now in the higher range, there are certain tones that we want to be able to create as singers. And again, it's an interesting thing with this too, because singing coaches will sometimes address some of these, all of them. There's almost like a confusion or can be cross terms in regards to in the higher range, like calling something belt, which is our and some people feel that's more of what's called mixed voice. I personally feel like there's certain things that, however it translates almost to the artist is where we kind of go with that there. I call the higher range, there's certain tones in their belt, like definitely refer to it as belt. And then there's also head voice. It's kind of a staple. You have head voice and you have falsetto. And essentially all those terms are doing is identifying a certain sound quality we as singers want to be able to create. Again, the confusion can lie that sometimes certain coaches refer to like belt for those big notes, and some might refer to that as more of a mix. I would say they're kind of interchangeable. For me, belt is that big, rich, full sound, the mid to high range. When I think about mix, it's almost like a softness that comes through, and it is a hybrid of like the head voice and belt. But I get why coaches may call it mix and so forth. But that being said, that's why we want to understand the word tone. And it's a little bit different in regards than pitch, because pitch again is the note. But I could paint that in other ways, meaning it could be a little rougher. It had that cleaner, breathy, and a little rougher. The tone of that note changed each time, and that's important. I say pitch is almost like our painters' paintbrushes. They know that if they're going to go for a small line, they're going to grab a brush with a small head. Tone is like our painters' paint. And so they might have that small brush head because they're doing a small line, but they could paint that in multiple different ways. And so you might work with someone and they might say, great, your pitch is awesome, but can you bring almost like a different kind of tone to that? Could you go a little breathier? Could you go a little brighter? And so we want to be able to understand that so we can work things how we want to work them, or if we're working with someone, how it might bring out the best in that composition. So I hope that helps. That is tone. All right, we are on term number 3, and that is placement. I talk about this a lot with my artists, and this is so important to understand because placement itself means where sound is going to. Where are we directing sound? Where are we singing from? And ultimately, we want to be sending that sound out to the front of our mouth. Just bear with me. If you watch other videos, you know. So placement is where we are focusing the sound. And again, I have another whole video on this. You can check that out really quickly to give you a sense of that. We can place sound in our throat. We could be placing sound in the middle of our mouth. We could be placing sound more in that nasal. Or we could be placing sound in the forward part of the mouth. And this is ultimately where I work with my artists on. And there's multiple ways that we can go about achieving this here, or multiple techniques, I should say, that come together at the same time, ultimately to create that there. But that's placement. And that's important to understand because you can start to identify where you're placing sound. Or if you're working with a coach or you're trying to self-correct yourself, you can go, you know where the sound's going to. And today here, I'm not going to be breaking down exactly how to fix that if you're going into different places, but please do make sure to subscribe and see other videos on the channel where I do go over how to handle this. Another thing that you can do is attached below this video is a free module. And there I give you the first part of my program and the major things that you need to know to fix your problems as a vocalist and in an order. That's one thing that's really, really important to me, going back to what I talked about in the beginning of this video and the idea that most people give up on something because they don't understand it. I also find they get lost in the whole sequence of things. It's like, okay, great. Either you're here because you're watching a bunch of videos on YouTube, or you've worked with someone and you're still not getting everything that you need to, or you're not feeling comfortable with your voice and it's cracking or it's going too nasally, or those other things. There might be missing pieces. And I'm a huge advocate of making sure that we have all the pieces that we need for singing, but on top of that, in an order that makes sense, right? Because if you're trying to do crazy runs, but you can't even do basic scales, you're not setting yourself up for success, because you can get those runs. But first and foremost, we need foundation. So be sure to subscribe below and get access to that free module where I have videos, I have some excerpts from my vocal program, exercise you can use to really start that foundation and get really good placement. Because that is our objective as singers, is we're really looking at, when it comes to the technical realm of things, getting things to that front part of the mouth. And so I hope this helped you in clarifying and understanding 3 basic terms that every singer should and needs to know in order to progress. Thank you for joining me, and I will see you at the top.